I assure you, despite the fact that it's not metal, Michael Shacker is still producing the show today. I didn't know Ludacris was in his DJ mixtapes, but sure enough, it is. And that's how we open Courtside Monday here this evening as the Blazers are not playing. So I am here with you. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. If you'd like to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can go to youtube.com, type in Riv City Radio, join the chat there. And of course, 88528 is the text line. Multiple ways for you to connect, have some fun, talk about this Blazers team as we have now entered officially the second half All-Star break section. And the Blazers look to continue to All-Star break section. And the Blazers look to continue to solidify their spot as an NBA play-in team. Looks like that is the case. There's teams behind them, but there's a pretty big gap. Can the Blazers grow? Can they jump up? Can they get past Golden State? Can they get past Phoenix? We shall see. They did get past Phoenix last night. Of course, that was just one game. And it was a good bounce-back game after what was a terrible outing against the Denver Nuggets. And we're here to talk about all that right now because why not? Weekend ago, it was All-Star break. We came in, we talked about that. Damian Lillard winning the three-point contest. Denny Avdia making his debut. Donovan Clingan and Young Hansen repping the team in the G League Rising Stars Showcase. And, that was fun. That was fun. But then we got back to the actual action. And the Blazers enter this stretch run now. They come back home against Denver, on the road against Phoenix, back home against Minnesota, and then they hit the road for a 5-game trip. We talked about it kind of being rough coming back because you had a couple real good teams. Maybe you're going to take a couple losses. Maybe you'd get some revenge against Phoenix. But that game against Denver was brutal. Brutal. The Blazers allowed 157 points. Almost reaching the record of 162. The most points ever scored against the Trailblazers, which was scored by who? The Denver Nuggets in 1982. Blazers scored just 103 points. It was a 54-point beatdown. The defense was not locked in. Denver got everything they wanted. They shot 57% from the floor, 51% from beyond the arc, 21 of 41. They made 6 more three-pointers than the Blazers, despite the fact that they took 6 fewer. They were 26 of 32 from the free throw line and absolutely demolished Portland on the boards. 60-36. And sometimes it just hurts. You got to take the L. You got to get punched in the mouth. The Blazers were in this case. And then the next thing they have to do is they have to bounce back from it. Can they bounce back? And that is what the task was last night against Phoenix. To come back from what was otherwise just an awful, awful performance. Mostly on the defensive end. That was the question. Could they come back and get their defense locked in? The answer to that question was yes. Yes, they could. Phoenix didn't have their full complement. There was no Dylan Brooks. There was no Devin Booker. In fact, Grayson Allen was hurt too. But they were able to lock in defensively and hold Phoenix to just 77 points. 77 points. It ended up being the biggest drop in points allowed from one game to another in NBA history. 80-point difference. An 80-point difference. Defensively, they won that basketball game. The offense looked terrible. Denny Avdia got hurt in the first minute, but the Blazers found a way. The Blazers found a way. And hopefully they can play like that the rest of the way because this schedule is going to get a whole lot easier. A whole lot easier. We're going to talk about that and more today on Courtside Monday. But before we jump into that, I got to talk about, we ended that segment there on the River City Drive. Chad was talking about those cartoons growing up. He was playing the intro to the G.I. Joe cartoon. And I had to mention that, I grew up as an X-Men kid. And back in the day too, like you have to have a good intro. Like shows still do that today. You got to have a good intro. It just grab them right off the top. My kids, it's like Pavlov's dog. As soon as they hear the intro to Bluey, oh yeah, they know it's on. For me, it was this. Here we go. Dad, I'm coming in the room. I'm grabbing the remote. Mom's not watching. Here we go. Dad, I'm grabbing the remote. I'm doubling up my audio. I got too many windows open. There we go. But here we go. This guy right here. Just a nostalgia pop. You heard this and you knew you were in for some fun on Saturday morning. Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Professor X, they were gonna entertain you for the next half hour. They were gonna get Magneto and his band of mutants. I loved X-Men so much. So much. It was X-Men, it was Spider-Man, and it was Batman the Animated Series. Those three cartoons just absolutely are my childhood in a nutshell. I will still watch the X-Men cartoons. X-Men 97 is pretty good too, but it's that old school X-Men cartoons. Oh my gosh. Great. G.I. Joe was Chad's jam. One of our texters, nothing compares to Scooby-Doo. That was my sister's show. Scooby-Doo, where are you? Oh, yeah. That was a great show, too. Yeah, absolutely. The Star Trek cartoon, don't remember that one, but I'll give it to my texter for bringing it up. The cartoon of the early 90s were the best, with Walt Disney Afternoon featuring the classic DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop, Tailspin. Channel 49, Fox Kids had the good ones too. Then there was also Carmen Sandiego, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, X-Men, etc. That texter right there knows what he's talking about. I'm not lying. I was playing. This is funny that you bring that up because I was watching Darkwing Duck inside my house just the other day. My daughters walked in like, "What is this, Dad?" I'm like, "Oh, this is Darkwing Duck." Like, come on, it was a great show. Goof Troop was good. Tailspin was good. DuckTales was great. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Phenomenal. I like those shows where I could watch and learn at the same time. The Ninja Turtles. My kids love the Ninja Turtles, so they'll watch the old ones and the new ones. X-Men was absolutely my jam. I loved it. Now we need the Blazers to get in on that. Wolverine had those extra healing powers. Well, we need to get the Blazers to get some of that. We need Denny Avdia healthy for a stretch run. We need Shaden Sharp healthy for a stretch run. He's dealing with that calf strain. Denny Avdia dealing with the back that flared up again against Phoenix. He played just a single minute. They need Wolverine's healing factor. Maybe some bones made of adamantium wouldn't hurt either. Just get out there and be healthy. That's what the Blazers need. Health moving forward, for a schedule that gets infinitely easier moving down the line. The Minnesota game is going to be rough, but then they go on a 5-game trip after that sees them go to Chicago, Charlotte, Atlanta, Memphis, and Houston. Chicago, Charlotte, Atlanta, Memphis, and Houston. Houston right now, 4th in the Western Conference. Chicago, they are on the outside of the play-in in the East. Charlotte is 10th. Atlanta is 9th. Of course, Memphis also outside of the play-in. And then you have the Houston team who's 4th. That's an easy stretch of games outside of that Houston one. Can he drop one? Sure. But the Blazers should absolutely take advantage of that. Well, another question we did get on the text line too. Hey, CB, where did Rupert sign? What is the lowdown on Caleb? Thanks for your time and wisdom. Well, Ryan Rupert signed a 10-day contract with the Memphis Grizzlies, and we'll see what happens there. We've seen that before. You saw Drew Eubanks here years ago. 10-day contract, get another 10-day contract, sign him for the rest of the year. So maybe he latches on in Memphis. I thought a team like Atlanta can make sense just because he's long and can play both ways. He's raw, Ryan Rupert is, but he's going to be good. Like, he still has the potential. He's still super, super young. I think he has probably another 2-year window in him to figure it out to be NBA ready. Fully. Rotation guy you can trust. And Memphis is giving him a chance. You like that. Caleb Love can hoop. He killed it just the other night going down to the Rip City remix. Dropped 20-plus points. We all know he can score. The thing is right now, unfortunately, with the way the Blazers are, they got rid of Roops to sign City Sissoko. Locked him up for a 2-year deal. But with Caleb Love, you have Drew Holiday healthy. You have Scoot Henderson healthy. You have Denny Avdia, who's in and out right now. And you have Shea, who's in and out. So maybe you see a situation where he comes back. He says, got 6 games left and uses them here relatively quickly while all those extra guards are out. But for the most part, you also have Blake Wesley in there. You got a little bit healthier at that spot. Now, the Shea and Denny injuries may open that door back open. But you really don't have anyone to cut at this moment to get rid of him. I thought Matisse Thybulle made sense for opening up a spot for City Sissoko, but now Matisse is back. They want to play him out the stretch run. And there's a belief that the front office might see a way to re-sign him on what would be a relatively cheap deal in the offseason just because he hasn't played a lot, but he is good when he plays. So those are the things you worry about. All I know is Caleb Love definitely deserves a shot at some point. He's been great for the Blazers this year. And if he plays more games down in the G League, it just gives you a reason to go down to the Bluff, get down to Child Center, and watch the River City Remix in person because Caleb Love has been great. All right, this is Courtside Monday. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can also hit us up on YouTube.com or on the text line, 88528. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about that Phoenix game. We're going to hear from Donovan Clingan and Jeremy Grant, who had some phenomenal performances. And then we'll start to look at that schedule the rest of the way. I broke it down a few times on game day in the 5th quarter, but I want to break it down for you. How will the Blazers finish the rest of the way? Because we have talked a lot about the schedule getting a whole lot easier, and it is going to get a whole lot easier. We'll talk about it coming up here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Courtside Monday. Chris Burkhart here with you. Enjoying a nice little Monday off of Blazers action. They'll be back at it tomorrow against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'll have Blazers game day for you starting at 5 o'clock. Meanwhile, here at the iHeartRadio studios, I sent Michael Shacker a picture earlier because I walked in and we're renovating. We're moving a little bit. For those of you who watch on YouTube, you're like, oh, the background's different because we moved to a different studio. I walk in and like nothing's the same. All the desks are gone. They've moved everything. And then during that last segment, I'm just like, what is going on? It sounds like a construction zone. Like, is that downstairs? Like, no one's in this building right now. And then during that break, like 4 construction workers walked by the window. Ah, there they are. There they are. That's where all that the clanging and banging was coming from. It's looking pretty nice in here, though. This is Courtside Monday. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. Of course, you can hit us up on the text line as well, 88528. I did enjoy the talk about Saturday morning cartoons. Those were absolutely the best, and I still will geek on them every once in a while. James Bond Jr. is another one. Oh, my gosh. That texter right there, that is one like I could all you did was say it and I can hear the intro. James Bond Jr. Oh my gosh. I played that game all the time on my Super Nintendo too. James Bond Jr. Cartoons may have peaked in the 90s, of course. One day my children will grow up and tell them, oh yeah, back when we had Disney Plus and Netflix, cartoons were the best. They'd never been any better. Oh my gosh. James Bond Jr., though, that's a game. That was a show, too. Good pull, my friend. Good pull. Now, back to action, though. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the Blazers, they needed to take the cartridge out, blow in it, put it back in, and then turn it on. That was the way to get the Blazers to work again because they did not work against the Denver Nuggets. That was a brutal game. As we mentioned, a 157-103 beatdown at the hands of the Denver Nuggets. So what you needed to do if you were the Blazers was come out the next night and lock in. Defensively was a big thing. Couldn't get the job done against Denver. That's supposed to be your calling card. How can you stop this Suns team? Now, the Suns didn't have Devin Booker, and they didn't have Dylan Brooks, and they didn't have Grayson Allen. But they still had Colin Gillespie, who torched the Blazers last time they played. They had Mark Williams, who had one heck of a game last time they played. And at the end of the day, they still got NBA players, and they've been a team that's been playing very good this year. So you still got to be ready. And I talked about it in the pregame show that what I wanted the Blazers to do was to think about the Blazers. Don't worry about who is and who is not playing for Phoenix. Focus on you. Go out there, lock in defensively, and get the job done. That is what the Blazers did. Offensively, it was still horrendous. Now, Denny Avdia only played 59 seconds before his back flared up and he went straight to the bench. Not saying that had anything to do with the offense being completely terrible, but it definitely does impact it. We've seen that all year long. But the turnovers offensively were still the bugaboo. Nonstop. 5 of them from Donovan Clingan, 6 of them from Drew Holiday, 4 of them from Scoot Henderson. In total, the team turned the ball over 21 times. But defensively, they forced 23 Phoenix turnovers. That was huge. After a night where they got blasted on the glass, they turned around, they beat Phoenix 47-41. They had 13 offensive rebounds and second chance points. They put up 18 of them. They beat Phoenix in the paint 52-34. So there was still some good, but overall the defense was lacking. The offense was lacking. But defensively, they held Phoenix to 36% shooting from the floor, 25% shooting from beyond the arc. Phoenix was just 9 of 35. Now, Portland wasn't any better. 10 of 37, but they were 38 of 81 overall from the floor. That made a difference in this one. It was still a close game. It was only a 15-point game. And they probably could have pulled away if the offense would have got flowing. It just didn't. 21 turnovers, couldn't get it done. But defensively, 10 steals, 11 blocked shots. 4 of them from Donovan Clingan, who had a hell of a game. 23 points, 4 blocked shots, 13 rebounds, 3 assists. He was 9 of 13 from the floor. One of his best all-around games, maybe of his career. I know he's had really good ones, but this was different. Even the box score, it may not have been the most rebounds he's had or in it, but he played with a level of intensity that you love to see. And you start looking at social, and people are like, man, we're seeing the come up of the young Marc Gasol 2.0. Well, if Donovan Clingan becomes a Marc Gasol prototype, I'll take that because Marc Gasol was pretty darn good, and those Memphis teams were pretty darn good. Donovan Clingan's coming into his own. Now, I have critiqued him many a time. I want him to be better offensively. I want him to be more aggressive, etc. But that just comes with the territory of a guy who is turning into a star center for your Trailblazers. We're going to critique you pretty hard because we see the potential for greatness there. He's in his first year as a full-time starter, second year in the league, and it's coming together for him. Super, super nice to see. And let's hear from the big man because he got a chance to talk to the TV crew after that game.
Donovan Clingan's on headset over there on the end line with us. And Donovan, thanks so much for joining us. A sensational game. You were extremely aggressive as you are every night, particularly against this small Suns lineup. Your eyes seemed to light up when you saw them come out there with that small lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little taller than that lineup was, so just trying to use my size to my advantage and do what I could to make plays happen.
How good was that lob pass that Holiday threw you for that punch?
I mean, that was up there. I didn't think I had that, but hey, I finished it, so we're good.
DC, Steve Smith here. I want to talk about your 3-ball. I mean, you're shooting this with confidence. You're leaving it up there, following through, and after you knock it down shots, you have a little smiles. Talk to me about the confidence you have in your 3-ball right now.
I put a lot of work in, get a lot of shots up every day. So, just going out there, shooting with confidence and letting it fly is important. And, when they don't step up, I see it as an open shot.
Hey, Donovan, you have now played in 54 games. Your average is about 27 minutes a game. You played 31 tonight. And you just show great conditioning and endurance tonight. Several times Steve talked about you getting something done on the defensive end and then releasing and running the floor, going rim to rim. You look great. You feeling great?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good. I think the All-Star break definitely helped a little bit. Recover the legs, recover the body. But this is the second half of the year. We got to make that playoff push. So I just got to go out there and leave it all out there every single night.
DC, last question for me. There's a lot of guys that block shots, but what I'm impressed as a young guy, you're being able to block shots and then keep them in play, but also you're not fouling. And I think that is huge, being able to go after shots without fouling.
Yeah, I mean, last year I feel like I struggled with trying to block shots and foul. So, this year I feel like just working on my timing, anticipating when they're going to go up with it, and really just trying to get my hand on the ball and also try to keep it in bounds so the play goes on.
We'll let you get away. We thank you very much for sharing your time, DC. Great win tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
And you hear Kevin Calabro right there even talk about the conditioning. He's looking good. He's looking good. Last year it was, he can't stay on the floor. He can only play 12 minutes a night. And yeah. Now here he is. When you put him on the floor, good things happen. His win shares are great. He's turned into one of the better players in his draft class. Still has plenty to learn. Still has plenty to improve upon. But what we're seeing from DC has been phenomenal. He was the best player on the floor last night against Phoenix. He was the reason they won that game. They needed someone to lock in. They needed the defense to show up. Donovan Clingan did. And I love, he gets the moments where the players are trying to get to him, put a hand on his arm, and he throws it off. Like, no, get off me. What are you doing? I love feisty Donovan Clingan. Feisty Donovan Clingan leads to good basketball. Now, he wasn't the only player that showed up. Jeremy Grant had a big bounce-back game after having just 6 points against Denver. He came out 9 of 13 from the floor as well, just like Donovan Clingan. 3 of 6 from beyond the arc, just like Donovan Clingan. 23 points. Another good night for JG, who also talked to the media after the game.
So, Jeremy, what was working for you guys tonight?
It was just moving the ball. I think we played great defense. I think Thiago came in and emphasis was defense, and we locked in on that end. And we struggled a little bit offensively early on, but we started making some shots.
What were the conversations like the last couple of days after the way things went on Friday?
Tough. I mean, it's tough. Can't say too much. It was just a really tough game, but got on us a little bit. But also, he understands his NBA, and we just shifted our focus to defense, and it helped us tonight.
What was working for you tonight?
Just getting some shots. We was moving the ball. We was playing how we were supposed to play. Thank you.
Did you buckle down on defense? Was that the key to get the game going? Because it was 20-20 and 40-40 and all that.
Yeah, definitely. We played great defense all night. They had 77 points. We definitely wanted to focus on defense.
How do you do that against a team that you didn't even know who they were going to put out there? And you guys then get a little modified too then. It's always different. When you're playing in the NBA, you never really know who's going to be playing. You might know a little bit before the game, but you always got to be ready. You got to focus on your own defensive principles. So that's what we did tonight, and it worked for us. Shutting down the other team, or how were you focusing on the defense?
A lot of help defense. So we got defensive principles. We want to make sure Gillespie couldn't get threes. He got going a little bit later in the game, but forcing them inside the line, forcing them to our big fellas, and they cleaned things up.
And there you hear from JG. He had a big game defensively. They had their focus, lots of rotations, and they made it hard for Phoenix. That's what they needed to do. We talked about Colin Gillespie had a good game last time they matched up, and this one he had 18 points. Mark Williams torched Donovan Clingan last time Phoenix was in Portland. I believe it was a 24-point game. Just couldn't be stopped. Played 15 minutes in this one. In that 15 minutes, he has 6 points. Royce O'Neal, good big who can get it going when he needs to. 0 points. 0 of 5 from the floor. Mark Williams, Royce O'Neal, and Ryan Dunn, 3 Suns starters who combined for 8 points. Combined. Now, it wasn't that great on the other side. Drew Holiday had just 6 points. He had as many turnovers as he had points. He also led the team with 7 assists. Scoot Henderson had a rough game from the field. 4 of 14. Did have 4 turnovers, but he had 6 assists. He was trying whatever he could do to get the offense going and help his team, despite the fact the shot wasn't falling. But again, when the shot wasn't there, the defense played incredibly well. That's exactly what they needed. They needed the defense to play well. I mean, Vit Krejci, who was brought in specifically to be a shooter, was 0-5. 0 points. That's your sign that the offense was bad. But the Blazers were able to rebound from it, get in a good spot, and win the ballgame. And now you are put in a situation moving forward where you know that you can lock in. Offensively, you weren't going to win that game with offense. But defensively, you could. And that is what happened. And over the next handful of games, it's going to get so much easier for your Trailblazers. Minnesota tomorrow. A Minnesota team that walloped Portland last time they played. 133-109 in Minnesota. And a Minnesota team that is currently 6th in the standings. But keep in mind the way the Western Conference is right now. Being 6th in the standings at 9 games back means they are also just 1 game out of being 3rd. Denver is 3rd right now, 8 games back, 36-22. Minnesota is 35-23. Then there is a 2-game gap between them and Phoenix. And of course, Phoenix without Dillon Brooks for an extended period of time after breaking his hand, with the injuries to Devin Booker and Grayson Allen being in and out, they might fall a little bit. There's 6 teams vying for the top 6, and there's 5 teams vying for the next 5, and then the next 5 teams are all basically locked in as outside of the play-in. Portland is in 9th right now. They have a 5.5 game lead over Memphis. A 5-game lead is what LA has over them. And as I mentioned, the schedule gets so much easier from this point moving forward. After the Minnesota game, which again, that is the 6th team in the West, they go on the road for a 5-game trip, sees them go to Chicago, who is currently outside of the play-in, 24-34, losers of 9 straight, 1-9 in their last 10. Then they go to Charlotte. Now, Charlotte has won 1 in a row. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They are 10th in the Eastern Conference. Con Knippel's putting it together. Had a great rookie season. They're finding ways to play good basketball. They're 27-31, which is just slightly worse. 1 game worse than your Trailblazers. So that's one of those 50-50 games you hope the Trailblazers can take advantage of. They play defense like they did against Phoenix. That's a game they win. Then they play Atlanta, who's 28-31. Very similar to your Trailblazers. It's a half-game difference. They've won 1. They're 4-6 in their last 10. Beatable game. Then it's Memphis. We all know what Memphis is. 21-34 in the season. 3-7 in their last 10. A rudderless ship. They traded their best asset at the deadline. And yes, I said their best asset because I don't think it's John Morant because there's no interest in him right now. Jaren Jackson Jr., on the other hand, lots of interest. So a 5-game trip with 4 very winnable games and then a Houston team that's currently 4th in the West and very, very good. Of course, how healthy they'll be. Steven Adams out, things like that. We'll see. Then they come home. And when they come home, 3 games at home against Indiana, Charlotte, and Utah. So a Charlotte team, as I just told you, right there, 10th in the East. And then an Indiana team that is dead last in the Eastern Conference at 15-43. And then a Utah team that is the 3rd worst team in the Western Conference at 18-39. Who more and more players every single day seem to be getting a surgery to be out for the rest of the year. There was the report today, Yusuf Nurkic having a procedure done on his nose. He will miss the remainder of the season. After that, Portland goes back on the road, 5 games. A Philadelphia team that they got to win over. That's right, feather in the cap. And then at Brooklyn, at Indiana. Just like Indiana, Brooklyn is 15-41. 2nd worst team in the East. Milwaukee, a team that, without Giannis, isn't very good. Portland has them on the schedule. Milwaukee currently 11th, as it were, in the Eastern Conference, outside of the play-in. 1.5 back of Charlotte. Losers of 1 straight, 6-4 in their last 10. And then Dallas and Washington round out that road trip. Washington, a team that Portland should have beat earlier when they went to Washington. Hopefully they rebound and get a victory there against a team that is 16-40. Dallas, they are 1-9 in their last 10. They were kind of in the hunt, and they have fully fallen out of that play-in race. There is a 7-game difference between Portland and Dallas right now. And that basically takes you into April. Your final game of March is on the road at LA. And then you round out the year. New Orleans, Denver, San Antonio, the LA Clippers again, and then Sacramento. And Sacramento's the worst team in the West. New Orleans is the 2nd worst team in the West. And then you have the Clippers, who you're battling with for a play-in spot and will very likely still be in a play-in because I still think they're arguably better than Memphis and Dallas. But they traded James Harden. They traded Ivica Zubac. They traded 2 of their key players. How good will they be the rest of the way? It's just I don't think they'll be worse than Memphis or Dallas. I don't think they lose 5 more games than those guys. So that's where you're at. That is a lot of basketball and a lot of winnable games for Portland. So if you play like you played over the last, 4 quarters, just realistically looking at that Phoenix game, you're going to win a lot of those. Now, if you play like you played against Denver, there's a lot of those games that I just said were winnable. You're going to suddenly take losses. So I think you're at a spot right now where you, as a team, you get to decide what Blazer team you're going to be the rest of the way. Are you going to be the team that lost by 54 against Denver? Or are you going to be the team that turned around and held Phoenix to 80 fewer points than you let Denver score just one night prior or one game prior? Held them to a number that is very sacred in these parts. You held them to 77. And maybe that's a sign. Maybe this was the turning point for the Blazers defense. The night that they held Phoenix to 77 points in honor of 1977. Maybe it just is. Maybe I'm spitballing, which is the more likely answer. But those are the two Blazer teams, though, that you can be the rest of the way. The no defense team or the one where defense can win you ball games. And if defense plays like it did against Phoenix, forcing those, 23 turnovers, getting those 11 steals, getting those 11 block shots. Yeah. Charlotte, Atlanta, Brooklyn, Indiana, Memphis, New Orleans, Portland's finding a way to win ball games. And at that point, the question is, what happens with the play-in? Can they catch up to Golden State, who is currently just 2.5 games ahead of them? Can Portland get up to the 8th spot? Can they get up to the 7th spot? There's a 5-game gap between them and Phoenix. It's a little bit harder. 5 games is the lot to catch up with. But regardless, going into the season, again, just what team are you going to be? Thought they would be going into the season. Again, just what team are you going to be? Hopefully that team we saw last night, we see that defense moving forward, and the offense it just doesn't repeat itself, because that offense will lose you ball games if it plays like that. Balance here. Figure it out. Regardless, I wasn't upset about that loss against Denver. I'm not over my skis after that win against Phoenix. But I did see things I looked at and go, you know what? If you play and build off those things you did well, you're going to win ball games, especially with this easier schedule moving forward. This is Courtside Monday. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. Of course, you can hit us up on youtube.com. Just type in Riv City Radio. Or you can go hit us up on the text line, 88528. Where one of our texters says, I think I'm seeing a skinny Nurk on the floor, number 27. Does feel weird to see a number 27 out there, even though Nurk was only here for a short period of time. I just feel like that was his number. We all had Nurk fever. Don't you lie. All right, we're going to continue. Plenty more NBA and Blazer Talk coming up when we return from the break here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Courtside Monday. Chris Burkhardt here with you. If you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. Of course, you can hit us up on the text line, 88528. Or one of our texters brought up James Bond Jr., which Michael Shacker said he'd never even heard of. But, man, like I said, when I heard the name James Bond Jr., I could just hear the theme song.
James Bond Jr. No one can stop him but stop James. Now he's
Beautiful.
to the name. James is Uncle James. Now he's
Beautiful.
to the name. James Bond.
Maybe they need to make a James Bond Jr. movie. Everyone's always talking about James Bond and remakes, and just make a James Bond Jr. movie. I'd be down for that. Around the world. Oh man, that's a good cartoon. That was a good pull. Also led me to Captain Planet. But I'm going to give points to anyone who recognizes this, because this was probably my favorite growing up. Outside of X-Men, this one was just a perfect cartoon show. Real ones know already. Little patty mayonnaise, pork chop, Roger Klotz, Doug, Skeeter. Doug was such a good cartoon show. Like, such a good cartoon show. Back when you had Doug and you had Rugrats. All Real Monsters came around. Nickelodeon had an absolute, just epic run of good cartoons. And then they gave you SpongeBob, and SpongeBob is now the longest running cartoon show on Nickelodeon, which who would have saw that coming? Everybody knows who lives in a pineapple under the sea, but, you know, James Bond Jr. was great. Doug walked so SpongeBob could run. And now I just want to go down the nostalgia road of great Sunday and Saturday morning cartoons. Yeah. Am I trying to be Doug funny here? Yeah, see? See, you get it. Doug was so good. Like I said, Rugrats was another one I totally enjoyed. Reptar. I have a Reptar t-shirt. Maybe I'll wear it to one of these games or one of these episodes of the show so you can see it on YouTube. Reptar. Oh yeah. There was a girl who won the athlete of the meet at one of these cheer events. Her last name was Pickles. I'm like, dude, Rugrats all day long. Rugrats is such a good show. Like I said, so is Doug. Doug is phenomenal. Just the entertainment that we had as kids. Then you ended up, I think, Powerpuff Girls was started coming around. Cartoon Network, because that's what Shacker was talking about. He's like, I tried to get on the Cartoon Network, and Cartoon Network tried, and it had some hits. You know, Courage the Cowardly Dog, and Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory. They weren't like Doug and X-Men though. X-Men was so good, and Batman the animated series. Kevin Conroy is Batman, and Mark Hamill is the perfect Joker. I know Heath Ledger was good, and he's the best live action portrayal, in my opinion. But Mark Hamill is the Joker. And the amount of people who don't know Mark Hamill has done anything but play Luke Skywalker, and when you say he is like the voice of the Joker, the iconic Joker laugh is Mark Hamill. The music means it's time to go. But, all right, the music means it's time to go. But I'll be back with you tomorrow.